My studio was in Lavender Walk, Clapham, and the painting was begun there in 1964. I worked on it until 1966 when I stopped working on it. This painting is located at what used to be the Royal College Painting School in that complex that includes the V&A. And the staircase was in the back of the building, the painting school building. If you came in from Exhibition Road, it would be sort of going to Brompton Road, what? It served as a kind of escape route out of the studios when the staff came around to give their quits. You know, some people, you wait around for them to come and talk to you, and then other people you just want to avoid. The staircase seemed to lead to a kind of entry to art and culture, painting that is particularly, right? You sort of, if you're good at it, then you rise. And often enough, you sort of wobble about at the top, and sometimes really escape and move along, or you come back down, and you know, you disappear, right? You know, sort of artist careers go up and down, this kind of thing. And just the staircase seemed to symbolize an awful lot to me, and I proceeded to try and make the staircase work in terms of the conditions that I felt my life was about. You know, in the picture itself, there are these three figures, and me at the bottom, my wife was in the middle there, and this sort of third entity, which is like split off from myself, who is always on the verge of putting the whole sort of edifice down, right? You know, sort of. I think people like to interpret my behavior as now this serious, hardworking student, and really kind of gifted, and but every now and then erupts because he's been drinking too much, or he's been hanging out with the guys in Soho or whatever, or you know, sort of at the college dances would sort of be found in the fights between sort of people from out of town and people from in town, that kind of stuff. So I tried to get all this sort of literary bit in without surrendering what I felt was the whole activity of painting was about, right? I felt that I could marry up these two sort of kind of constraining tension. You can get it in the work without surrendering what painting was about. You know, I thought that I was able to do that in and amongst the others. You know, that I could kind of marry up all these disparate bits, like, you know, sort of color, sort of mannerisms. You know, which way you paint, whether it's Slade School or, you know, sort of Royal College. Sort of like you can do a fandango with all these styles and make a sort of strong work that has the aspects of painting and sculpture and architecture and things like that, you know, structures. You can still build all the structure, all these things, and they can hang together like something very new, something very pertinent. And that was the ambition for this picture. It's sort of very difficult to talk more about it, except, the sort of aspects that are pretty straightforwardly in there, like the sort of vasarally on the floor and, stain painting, color painting, and just figuration, just trying to outdo Francis Bacon and at the same time sort of like make something new about color painting. During that time, I had also quite a lot of help from some of the students. I started painting the Vasarely, call it, and one of the students said, "You can't do that," implying I couldn't do it as well as she could. So I let her do it, and sort of that's how that came about. I started to structure it, and she painted it. Her name is on the back of the painting. Margaret Hogg. Yeah, she was a very good student. There was a time there when I wanted to make works that had that feeling of shop windows. I think there's a connection there somewhere. Being a child of bowling variety store, business people. My mother was, a store person. That sort of frontage always seemed to have some significance to me. I had to learn how to. A building was built because my mother was involved in building houses and renting them out. She was that kind of, and I had to know how to read a plan from a very early age. So it all seemed to add up. And the question was it the first time I'd ever used consciously advertising in my work? I think I should say yes, because by the time I was trying to make this picture, I knew a lot more about what I was trying to do. So what I just said about being able to know about plan and elevation and stuff, and being able to do it freehand, I was there already. But I don't know that it would have been involved in advertising, although clearly the shop front thing I was talking about, my mother's store, Bowling's Variety, that was all. The kitchen area, if you like, with the sort of modern tap and sort of crockery and stuff. It was in the air, you sort of wanted to make comment on that, the sort of advertising of, sort of things that people seem to need in pursuit of their happiness, right? So if you nice kitchen, stuff like that. But I felt that I could make use of my concern with that, with what painting is about. I felt that I was on top of that situation, and I should try and do it, because I didn't feel that there was anybody else who felt that that was something that you can actually do. I repainted parts of the staircase around 67 to 8. The woman who helped me do the gold leaf is called Carrie, and that's all I can remember. I see her. She was a student at the Byam Shaw, so that's what I remember. But yes, the gold leaf was done after the work was. I'd stopped actually working with it, because I wanted that. What's happening in the picture now, that it's sort of the way the light bounces off it, right? It's sort of. That's why I decided to call it mirror, because it's like catching something in a mirror, right? So just as you're walking by, I wanted to get it to like it is now, to get it sort of, that it's, as I say, it's like, it's at a glance, right? But it's really not. You're just locked in, all those things. But on the surface, for it to have this light in the picture, I felt that it could have what it's doing now, like it's sort of, it's got this kind of space, but it's on the flat. Patty Kitchen was my first wife, and we met at the Royal College of Art, and we met at the college, and we got married during the time I was a student, 1961. And the upshot of that was the principal at the Royal College decided that I was a young upstart and I was flashy and down Fulham Road and the rest of it, and he couldn't have somebody like that marrying a member of staff. So I got the sack. I had to leave the college and went to the Slade. And during that time, there was the kind of gossip column area that we had to live through. But Patty's determination to be a good writer continued, and after the marriage broke up, and about by the time this painting was beginning, and when I stopped working on it, the marriage ended. Charles Eames was this very influential architect, and my about-to-be wife had to look after him, and I believe that they went off and had a little fling, and it really got up my nose. But I had learned that you have to let people do what they want to do. So I just decided that the way to proceed is to go and see this broke out in California, which is when I went out to the United States for the first time. And I wanted to go and take a look at good look at Mr. Charles Eames. And he had this huge compound with all his assistants and architects, and I thought, okay, so, okay. Yeah. So I felt better about that. But, I felt still strongly enough about it that when I was trying to do the painting, I wanted some of those things in there for me to sort of like come to terms with myself. I was friendly with a lot of sculptors during that time. Yes, I was making this painting. Yeah. Jerry Pethick, Eddie Pickett, Neil Stocker, people like that. They're all dead now, but they were the people I seen a lot of, yeah. And Liz Frink especially, yeah. I was very close to Liz Frink, yeah, during that time. At the time, I was very interested in Francis Bacon. Some of my work is influenced by Francis Bacon, and I thought I could do something different with it. And hence the drag paint, the sort of in the figure in the middle and the drag paint on the side. It's I'm sitting and looking there. And I realized that I was on the case, but what I was intent to do, we came to loggerheads about space, and my concern was flat space, and Francis was always back in that sort of illusional space, that sort of kind of like it's not here, it's back there somewhere, it's back there, so I was intent on making that sort of statement. And it is around then that we fell out, because, he got on my case about, he was very malicious. And around about the time that I fell out with Francis Bacon, I met Larry Rivers, Jasper Johns, people like that. So I thought that there was something going on in New York that would sustain my sort of urge to make some good work, make some major work. So I left and went to live in the Hotel Chelsea in '66. Leaving this painting behind, by the way. While we were on it, Patty Kitchen looked after this work when I was trying to do my stuff in New York. So, even though she decided that I was impossible, she still was very friendly towards me. So this has been restretched more than once because the picture actually had this sort of difficult existence, rather, it was moved from here and there. It went with me wherever I went. I sort of took it to New York and brought it back here. Whereas an awful lot of the works that I made during that time have disappeared, somehow I've husbanded this one to the extent that it continues to be, I'm minding an awful lot about this picture, so I try to look after it. It has been rolled up and hung on the ceiling, restretched. It's been restretched. Yes, it's been restretched about 5 times.
And was this painting included in the 1966 summer show at the Royal Academy?
Yes, it was. That was the first time it was shown. The summer show at the Royal Academy. And it was about then people started making claims about it, which, I felt was so uninformed. I think a lot of people didn't realize what was going on in the painting. It was just a big, ambitious painting that some of my contemporaries was a bit hostile towards. For me, when this painting, I stopped working on this painting in '66, I realized that my work had to move on, So when I started working in the Hotel Chelsea, where I moved to lodge in New York, I was taking a lot of the aspects that I tried to put together in this painting and separating them out again, right? Like color and content. After this paint, I stopped working on this painting. The work seemed to move in a way that, in retrospect, this painting had actually released me to do. I felt that I could actually make paintings that could carry the longings, if you want, about something new to look at, like how the new sort of acrylic paints, had a sort of way of bleeding into each other in a way that I sort of learned from trying to make this picture. Suddenly the paint itself actually it's not going to sort of fuse wholly. It's going to fuse, and then it gets grayed out, and then it moves back into its sort of color temperature. I think that there's a lot of complicated things in that picture that can't actually be rendered into sort of chat, because if you like, the picture is really a kind of formalist picture which is very personal. The picture is about making a painting. And, the sort of aspects in it that I felt could be useful in pathologizing an awful lot of the stuff that was going down that I felt confused about, and that I could try and anchor them in a formal way. I could put it down on the painting, and it would have that kind of energy in it. So I started moving away from wanting to paint pictures that were expected of me. I wanted to make paintings that had that was in contention and had my sort of sense of touch or whatever, sort of in it. That the thing could actually sort of stop being about explaining myself, but about being myself, to coming straight from how I respond to the material I'm using, like paint and canvas, that sort of thing, and trying to make a work that will stand up and remove itself from the rest and have a presence.